I'm starting. You can't see it, but I'm starting to get goose pimples again. I get really upset when I think about this situation because I feel like I was taken advantage of. And there were so many things that were talked about and promised that never happened. And now it's to the point that, like I said, the team they don't even communicate with me. I guess the main reason that I haven't fully given up on this idea yet is because we've come out of pocket with money to do this, to launch this project. What's going on, family? Maurice Bay, the Helpful Trucker here. In this video, I want to talk about what's going on with the CDL school that some of you guys have been hearing me talk about. This is a really difficult video for me to do, basically because it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And because of that, this has been a really difficult video for me to muster up the desire and the energy to do. Like, I've been blabbing all about starting the CDL school here on the channel. It's only right if I let you guys know now, the ones that are waiting for an update, that it's not going to happen, and a little bit of reason as to why it's not going to happen. Well, first of all, let me be honest with myself. It's not going to happen, but what's more true is that it's not going to happen right now. I've not given up on the idea of starting a CDL school or starting some sort of CDL training program. So we've invested money, me and my wife, we've invested money into this project already. Plus, we've asked for contributions from my followers, my subscribers, and some of you guys contributed money to the GoFundMe that we set up to fund the CDL school. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about funding and why it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in this video as well. But I guess the main reason that I haven't fully given up on this idea yet is because we've come out of pocket with money to do this, to launch this project, right? So like, we've bought a domain, helpfulcdltraining.com. We have started the business entity. We've created the business entity. I went on to LegalZoom and paid for like their highest program there. And the reason we did that is because we wanted to make sure the paperwork was done correctly. Every LLC that we've ever started before, it was just one owner, right? So, or one member, I should say. But this one is 51% my wife and 49% me. My wife brings a lot of expertise to the table as far as how to launch this and get this off the ground as well. So she does deserve to be 51%. Plus, we figured with it being 51% woman owned, a majority woman owned, that might make it easier to get funding as well. Plus, my wife is a veteran too. So because of all of that, we decided to, instead of trying to create that ourselves and put the operating agreement together ourselves, we hired LegalZoom. We paid for LegalZoom service to do that. That was like $400. We paid for the domain for helpfulcdltraining.com. We started a bank account. We created the bank account. We've done several things. We went on to iPostal and secured a business address. That was, a few $100s. And we've come out of pocket for the services to buy the services of a grant writer. And the grant writer was supposed to basically help us fund this project, either through a grant or by helping us to establish business credit. Establishing business credit is still one of those things that I haven't really done yet. But I think the main reason that I haven't really done more as far as establishing the business credit is because I've always heard that if you go the wrong way with establishing big business credit, it can prolong the process. And we didn't want to do that. So we hired somebody to kind of help us navigate that process. And also in helping us establish business credit, they were also supposed to be proficient at finding and submitting grant proposals as well. So that service was $3,000 by itself. So we're out of pocket probably $4,000. And at this point, we don't want to just let those assets, the domain, the business bank account, we don't want to just let those assets go dormant. We don't just want to let those things just fade away. So because of that, even though it appears that actually creating the CDL school to put under that entity or to put into that entity is not going to happen, at least not for right now, we're still open to the idea of putting together some business under that LLC, under that partnership. May just be something online. It may not actually be a full-fledged offline training program, but anything that we can come up with that we feel that the trucking community at large needs, that we feel we got the capacity to put together, we're open to running it under that LLC that we've already put together, right? So because of that, we haven't really fully given up on what to do with this, with all those assets yet. Now, before I forget, if anyone listening to this video right now contributed to our GoFundMe to help start the CDL school, and you're hearing me say right now that it doesn't look like it's going to happen, and you want your contribution back, you just need to hit me up at info@helpfulcdltraining.com, or you can just hit me up at mbay7167@gmail.com. Either one of those email addresses will be fine. And you can email us back and let us know, hey, you know, I want my contribution back. We got no problems at all giving whoever wants their contribution back. The money is still sitting there in our bank account. We haven't spent any of that money. The money that we've spent has been our own money, and you know, we feel like we've kind of lost that. Okay. Now, a couple of the reasons why this whole thing basically just fell flat on its face, why it's not going to happen. It's been a couple of reasons. The main one is lack of resources. When I say resources, I'm talking about money, just lack of the money, right? If we would have had the business credit to pull this off, and the knowledge to pull this off, and the people to help us pull this off, we probably would have been able to pull it off. But, you know, like we didn't want to sacrifice any of our personal assets. We didn't want to get any of that involved. So we elected to, I should say, to try to go with it on the business credit side. We actually were approved in our own personal names, pre-approved for $150,000 to start this project. But again, we didn't want to sacrifice any of our own personal assets. Like me and my wife, we just got our credit together a couple of years ago. We just bought our first home a couple of years ago, and we didn't want to sacrifice that. We didn't want to get any of our personal assets involved. Starting a CDL school is an expensive endeavor. If you're going to do it the right way, it's an expensive endeavor, and just like any business, it's a risky endeavor. We didn't want to do it in our personal names. We wanted to do it in our business names. Now, what we did is we paid $3,000 to pay for the services of a grant writer / somebody to help us with business funding. We were told by the grant writer that they actually have a team as well, but we were told specifically by them that once we paid them their retainer, which is what we paid the $3,000 for, that they worked for us until we found the funds to launch this project. As of now, it's been probably 3 months since we've spoken to that grant writer, since we've spoken to them. So, like, promises were made to us. You know, I'm just going to be transparent here. And this is one of the things that's been difficult one of the reasons why it's been difficult for me to make this video. Like, I'm not the type to want to blame other people for what happens to me. Now, that being said, I got to be honest with myself. One of the big reasons why this is not going to happen is it's a lot of it was out of my control. You know, they say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you need a team to go with. And we thought we had a team to work with, but a lot of promises were made to us by the team that we were working with that just bottom line was not fulfilled on. So like I said, I don't want to blame anybody else for us not being able to do what we want to do. You know, if we still want to start a CDL school at this point, it's going to be up to us. But on the flip side of the coin, if you want to do something that's going to require other people, you got to have the right team. You got to have the right people. You got to have people that are committed to doing what they promise you they're going to do. Like, you can't be the only one that's running the ball across the goal line, right? And as far as like meeting up with the team on a weekly basis, you know, I just stopped reaching out. When you're working with a team, you need other people that are just as committed to getting it done as you are. And when I stopped reaching out to them, they weren't reaching out to me. They haven't reached out to me. If I was to reach out to them right now, I'm not sure if they would answer or not. I would think that they probably would, but they're not reaching out to me. And I feel like every time I reach out to them, they're talking, but nothing is happening. So many promises have been made to me and my wife as far as, how this was going to happen. And virtually none of the promises, nothing that was promised was given to us. Right. So just bottom line, me and my wife, we talked and we feel that if we're going to pull this off, it's no use in still dealing with that same team. It's no use in dealing with them, right? So, if we're going to do this, we need to be working with the right people. Now, one of the lessons that I learned throughout this process, or that we've learned throughout this process, and some of these lessons that we've learned aren't necessarily things that we've learned. They were things that we already know, but it's like going through this experience kind of reiterated some important things, right? So if you listen to this video right now, have an aspiration to start a business that is going to require more than just you. If you're going to need, systems in place and people in place and a team to work with, some of these things that were reiterated to us throughout this process is going to help you as well. First mistake that we made in this process is, it's going to sound simple, but it's really not. Whenever you're dealing with somebody, you should always get a receipt. Whenever something is promised to you, you should always get a receipt. Now, when I say get a receipt, I don't just mean a receipt for the transaction. What I actually mean is you should always get what you're expecting done in writing. Now, when the grant writer that we agreed to work with, that we paid, once we paid them, we got a receipt for the transaction. But what should have happened is we should have told them, listen, everything that you're offering us, all the promises that you're making us, give that to us in writing. And we'll sign off on it, or we'll have an attorney review it, and then we'll sign off on it after that point, right? So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, man, listen, if you really invested three grand, in a grant writer, and they didn't do what they promised you, and they literally, I promise you, I'm not exaggerating, no grants were ever submitted in me and my wife's name. And again, we were promised that we had a funding partner in the form of a grant writer on our team that worked for us. Those were their specific words, until the funding for this project, until we found the funding. At this point, we haven't spoken to them in several weeks now, several months now, since we've spoken to our funding partner. So if you're listening at this and you're like, well, hey, if you were promised something and you didn't get it, can you get your money back? Probably not. And I have a reason why I'm saying that, but I don't want to stretch this video out too long. But probably not. But if we had what was promised to us in writing, our case to get our money back would probably be a lot more solid than it is right now. If we were willing to really, really push it, it's possible that we could even get our money back now. But this has been a really stressful situation to my wife and to me, and stressful to the point that every time I think about it, I get really, really upset. So I've been just doing my best, as it's become more of a reality to me that I can't depend on the team that I've been working with. As that becomes more of a reality, I just want to forget about it, because I promise you, every single time I think about this situation, I get really, really upset. I really do. So, if we were willing to push it, we probably could get our money back. We might even have to go to court to deal with that. But you know what? At this point, I just want to be free and clear of the situation. And the main reason is because we solicited help from the wrong people. I shouldn't say solicited. We elicited help from the wrong people. Another thing, as far as building a team and finding a team, it's more than just throwing a group of people together, right? If you're looking to start a business that's going to require other people, you got to find the right people, okay? Which calls into play your networking ability and your ability to paint the vision for a group of people and to get everybody to focus on that vision. These were mistakes that I attribute to myself. The fact that I didn't have the right group of people, that may not have been my fault. And there's a reason why I'm saying that. But painting the vision for the group of people that I'm working with, I feel like this is a skill set that I have to get better at. I feel like I have to get better at networking to find the right people. Again, just putting together a group of superstars don't ensure that you're going to win a championship. You got to have the right people in the right place, right? And as truck drivers, a lot of us, one of the things that we love about truck driving is the fact that we don't need people. And I've often said before that people skills is one of those things where if you don't use it, it tends to go dormant, right? And I used to be in sales, so it's not like I'm not used to working with people, but maybe my ability to scout talent, maybe my ability to place people in the right areas, I might need to work on. I might need to work on that stuff, but that's my fault. Not getting a receipt from the people or not getting in writing what was promised to me was a huge mistake that I will never do that again. Whenever I do agree to go into some type of deal with somebody, depending on what type of deal it is, this is something that I definitely needed to get in writing, right? Understanding that how people deal with you before y'all ever agree to work together is probably how they're going to engage with you after y'all work or start working together. This is something else that was kind of reiterated to me throughout this process. Another way to say it is there were indicators, like communication has been one of the main issues between me and the group of people. I want to call them my team. I've done videos with them here on the channel before, and I was referring to them as my team. In hindsight now, I don't feel like this group of people was my team. My team is going to be dedicated to my success. My team is going to be dedicated to making sure or doing their part to make sure the vision becomes a reality. And so the reason why I'm hesitant to call these people my team anymore is because I feel like they're on a team with each other, but they're not on my team, right? So, but how people engage with you before you guys agree to work together is probably how they're going to engage with you afterwards. There were definitely signs of communication issues before we ever agreed to work together. And after we agreed to work together, after I paid them money, those red flags, if you will, never went away. The same lack of communication that showed up before I ever paid them money showed up after I paid them money. As a matter of fact, in hindsight now, I will say that, here's what I will say, because there's two sides to this. On one side, communication was different before we ever agreed to work together. Again, promises were made, and like I just saw their representative before we agreed to work together. And after I agreed to work with them and paid them money, weaknesses in their communication showed up. But some of those weaknesses in their communication showed up before we ever worked together. But I can definitely say now in hindsight that they went out of their way to present themselves as good communicators, people that were going to be there when the phone was, when they were reached out to. They were people that were going to, uphold their end of the bargain. If we said, hey, we're going to meet every week, it was their idea before we ever got started working together to meet every week throughout this process. And then after the process started, it was up to me all of a sudden for us to meet every week. If I didn't reach out to them, they didn't reach out to me. And that's why I just stopped reaching out to them to kind of test whether they were going to continue doing what they were supposed to do. Like, it's a long story to this whole process, but just some of these things that I'm sharing with you in this video, these were the indicators that showed up before we ever agreed to work with each other, right? So like a lot was learned. A lot was learned throughout this process. I want to be careful not to badmouth these people too much. I'm not, questioning whether they're good people or not. I just know that if you're going to do business with someone, the person that you're going to do business with, it has to be a person that has integrity. If they're not going to do it, they're not going to say it. And if they say it, they're going to do it. And I don't feel like the team of people that I was working with were the type of people that, they're going to do what they say they're going to do. The school was supposed to actually open up October the 1st, but my location in Richmond, Virginia was only going to be one location. There was actually supposed to be 3 locations opening up, one in Dallas, Texas, one in Los Angeles, California, and one in Richmond, Virginia. I was just going to be running one of the locations. So it's not like, I'm not opening the school but the rest of the schools are opening up. The whole thing is a flop. From what I know, none of the schools are open. The one in Dallas, the one in Los Angeles, none of them are open. So I think you can agree that it would be rather difficult for me to open up a location under this program if the whole program didn't launch anything, right? So, we were supposed to be doing a pre-launch to try to put money in the CDL school owners' pockets before the doors ever opened. That never happened. There were so many things that were talked about and promised that never happened. And now it's to the point that, like I said, the team they don't even communicate with me anymore. So I don't want to rant on about this too long because I'm actually getting upset as I talk about this now. But I got to be honest with myself. All of the reason why this didn't happen, I can't take all the blame for it. But I am still open right now, and I am still looking for something to do with the assets that we've put together under Helpful CDL Training LLC. Again, the entity is already formed. The domain is already bought. The bank account is already open. The bank account has money sitting in it. And just to reiterate, if you contributed to the GoFundMe and you want your money back because this project is on hold, just reach out to me at info@helpfulcdltraining.com or mbay7167@gmail.com, and we will absolutely send you your contribution back. No questions asked. We're not in the business of taking advantage of people. That's not what me and my wife are all about. So if you contributed and you want your money back, let us know. We'll give it back. No questions asked. But for now, this whole project is on hold, family. And if you're one of the people out there that was waiting for this to come about, I hope you will accept me being transparent and coming on and making a YouTube video about how it's not going to happen, right? So that's pretty much all I got to say in this video. I can't continue to talk about it as I do. You can't see it, but I'm starting to get goose pimples. Again, I get really upset when I think about this situation because I feel like I was taken advantage of. I really do. I absolutely feel like I was taken advantage of. But, we're still looking at things to do. We're still open to the prospects. All right. So appreciate you watching this video. And as always, I hope you got some value from the lessons that were reiterated to us throughout this process.